And I'm an asshole, and that's okay. It pisses people off, and it makes my day. And I'm back. Yes, we're back with another episode of John Sees the World. Or is it John Sees the World? Okay, I'm not really sure. And today we're brought to you by Mojado Tires. You buy what we got. Guaranteed to be round on most of the sides as you leave the parking lot. Once you're out of the lot, you're on your own. Thank you, Mojado Tires. And those of you in San Antonio, Texas, who are about my age know of a Mojado shop. All right. So tonight I'm going to go ahead, today, this episode, I'm going to go ahead and enlighten you with a few stories, a few more stories, a couple of them, anyways. Um, the first one has to do with when I was working at a radio station shortly after I got out of service back in 1987. I know that seems like dinosaur years ago to some of you, and I'll be honest about it, it seems like dinosaur years to me back in them days. But I used to work for a radio station called KRNN, News Talk Radio Station, and I've talked about working for radio stations in the past before. And I happened to be working the 6 a.m. to noon shift at this particular time, which is not my favorite shift to work. I'm not very good. I'm not a morning person. I'm more of an overnight person, a graveyard person. Midnight till whenever. I was used to working midnight to sixes at the time, but we were in the process of slowly winding down. We had just been bought by a Mexican company, and we're in the process of winding down the station and being thrown out in the street, so to speak. And while we were sitting there working 6 a.m. to noon, and I was running a program with live talent, of course, and going in and out of commercial breaks and such. Well, apparently the secretary at the front desk decided I had done my job incorrectly and taken it upon herself to come in and in no uncertain terms inform me that I needed to do my job better or else. I don't take well to that sort of thing. I probably never explained why I was a bosun's mate in the Navy. In the Navy, bosun's mates are known as professional assholes. Okay, there's a reason for that. You ask any Navy man, what's a professional asshole? He'll tell you it's a bosun's mate. When you're going to A school, which I was at the time, an electronics technician A school, they always hold over your head the threat of becoming a bowel movement, a BM, a bosun's mate. They tell you that if you fail out of A school, you're going to become one of the stupidest individuals in the Navy. To be just like that, you're going to be stupid. You go on board a ship, you see guys reading novels, talking philosophy, stuff like that. They're all, you know, rated individuals, so to speak. You see the kid sitting in the corner reading a comic book and giggling to himself in a somewhat stupid kind of way. That's a bosun's mate. Not too bright. And that's, the reality that we had to learn to live with in A school. When I failed out of A school and was sent to the fleet as a decade, not even a bosun's mate, a decade, one step below a bosun's mate. And I was, wow, I've really screwed this up badly now. I have really taken an opportunity and set it on fire. But eventually it came as I worked my way up in the bosun mate world, became a bosun's mate third class, and then eventually a bosun's mate second class before I separated after 4 years. You became aware of the fact that bosun mates aren't stupid. Bosun mates are just people who have trouble with authority. We can be very intelligent individuals We can, hold our own. We just don't do well with authority at all. It's sort of a problem. It's been a problem with me my whole life, I suppose, from one extent to another. Sometimes it's quite evident, sometimes it wasn't. So we get back to the working at Kaler and in studio, and the young lady who was working as a receptionist at the front desk, who decided I hadn't done my job properly and came in and decided to threaten me. She made the mistake coming in while I had a full cup of coffee. And I ended up throwing a cup of coffee at her. No, I'm not talking a whole cup. I just took the cup and whoop, threw it. She ducked it, it hit the bulletin board behind her and splashed all over the place. And she ran out of the room wailing and crying and carrying on and whatnot. Of course, immediately went to go see the program director. Program director came in a few minutes later and he goes, "John, did you just fling a cup of coffee at the receptionist?" And I looked at him. I said, "Phil, yes, I did. She came in here thinking she could tell me how to do my job when she doesn't know what she's talking about. And she has obviously been looking at the wrong schedule and decided she had a problem with me. So I decided to vacate her from the studio as quickly as I could without losing my temper." He goes, "Oh, okay, John, I understand." At which point he went back and told the receptionist, "Stay the fuck stay the fuck out of the studio when John is in there. Leave him alone." Well, maybe it's not that funny a story now, but I thought it was funny. And on that note, we're going to go on with pouring coffee. We're going to go on a coffee thing right now. My second IT job was working for the Air Force Help Desk. It was called the ESD. And don't ask me, I don't remember what ESD stands for anymore. That was, God, years and years and years ago. Now, normally, I'd have my friend Richard here with me, and we'd be talking about this and such, to you. Seeing as Richard was on the shift that this happened, Richard worked the swing shift. That was the guys that usually worked till from like 3 o'clock in the afternoon till midnight, something like that, or 3 o'clock in the afternoon till midnight. And my crew would come on from midnight till 9 a.m. Now, the swing shift had a particularly silly jackass who was in charge of them. They were called CSAs. I forget what the CSA, something about a customer support associate or whatever. I don't remember exactly. This guy had a bad attitude. He was king shit, and everybody better do what he says, or else he's gonna find a way to get rid of him, type of guy. He actually made it made it a point to make an example of Richard, so that the others could see what would happen to them if they didn't follow what he said. Well, at that time, working on midnight shift, I'm used to having coffee all night long. Pot brewing all night, runs out, somebody makes a new pot, and we continue with the coffee. Well, in order to do that, I had to put out an email to the midnight shift and asking, well, who drinks coffee and who doesn't. And once I got the names of everybody who drank coffee, I sent another email out and I inquired, well, how would you feel if we set up a coffee club type of thing? What I will do is create a spreadsheet. Each of our names will go on that spreadsheet. And whoever's name is next will buy the next pound of coffee when we're running out. And of course, there was about maybe 15 or 20 of us on that list. And we all agreed to this. Now, just to be fair, I, of course, was the first one on the list. So I bought the first pound of coffee. Say we paid for our own coffee. And as we would start to run out, it was my job one of my responsibilities, to send another email out to the next person on the list. Yeah, you need to bring in a pound of coffee tomorrow or the next day so we don't run out. Well, I'm sitting there in the break room one evening when Richard's supervisor, guy by the name of Daniel, ex-Air Force pilot, bomber pilot, or not bomber pilot, cargo pilot of all things, comes in with his arrogant attitude. And as I'm pouring a cup of coffee, he says, "Well, John, that looks good. You could pour me a cup too." Okay, did I mention the part that I don't do well with authority? I don't. I really don't. You ask anybody who's known me a number of years, they'll tell you the same damn thing. So I looked at this individual and I looked at him and said, "Daniel, you're not on my list." And he looked at me kind of quizzing. "List? What list?" And I said, "Daniel, we pay for our own coffee on the midnight shift. You're not on my list. If you're on the swing shifts list, well, you need to talk to them about getting a cup of coffee. You don't need to be talking to me." He goes, "Yes, but there's a half a pot of coffee left after you just poured it." I said, "Daniel, that half a pot of coffee is for somebody on the list that will be coming in the next few minutes." I've always been of the belief that if you show up on time, you're late. And if you show up 10 minutes early, then you're on time. In my case, I used to show up anywhere from half an hour to an hour early, simply because I like to see what the hell's going on before my shift starts. That's just me. So I refused to pour him a cup of coffee, much less allow him to have a cup of coffee out of the pot that I had just made with the mid-shift coffee. So he looks at me and he says, "Well, you know that coffee's just going to go to waste." I said, "How can you tell it's going to go to waste?" Some mid-shifters will be coming in shortly. They'll be looking for their cup of coffee, and I'm sure they'll be happy to find it's fresh and hot and not in your cup. At which point he goes, "It doesn't have to be like this. It really doesn't. You really need to be able to follow my instructions and do what I tell you." I said, "Fine. Hold out your cup." At which point I picked up the coffee pot with my left hand. He held up his cup. I proceeded to pour, and the coffee poured all over his expensive Italian, whatever they were, loafers. And he's dancing around. "Ow, ow, ow. No, not my shoe." And he looks at me. "Why? Why?" I just looked him back straight in the eye. I don't pour very well with my left hand. And I poured the rest of the pot down the drain. And I took the coffee from midnight shift, the pound of, or what was left of it, to my desk to ensure that he wouldn't make a pot out of that. I can't help myself sometimes. I am that way. I'm like that. At the same job one night, and this, of course, all doesn't happen back to back. This happens over a period of years and such. But anyways, one night the fire alarm went off, and we all ended up running out into the parking lot and taking our assigned spots in the parking lot where our supervisors and such could double check and make sure we had all made it out to the parking lot without dying as a result of smoke inhalation, burning, or whatever may come. And it turned out that somebody had set their popcorn in the microwave and left it in there too long. As a result, it burned, creating a lot of smoke and setting off the smoke alarm, which was, of course, a fire alarm. And so we all ended up out in the parking lot smoking cigarettes and bullshitting and talking and not doing our jobs. Because of that, popcorn was taken off the menu at the ESD. Oh well, that happens. Well, you know, I mean, all these strange little things and fun little things happen at different jobs you go to. And I'm sure you've all been on jobs where something silly or stupid has happened. You know, like when I was installing fireplaces and we were doing chimney caps one afternoon on a house that had three chimney caps, and it was still in the framing stage, and the roofers had just managed to get their what is that called? They had just managed to put the plywood down on the roof, the decking. That's what it's called. They had just managed to deck out the roof, of the house, and they had gone to lunch. And me and my buddy were up there on the roof, and it was a multi-level roof, putting up the chimney cap. And well, I went and jumped from one roof to a lower roof, and ended up going through the lower roof with one of my legs. Stuff happens. No, I didn't get hurt, but needless to say that the roofing guys, when they came back and they found a big hole in their decking where my leg went through. Of course, they didn't find me there or my buddy there. We both took off before that happened. But yeah, these sort of things happen from time to time on the job. It's all part of it. And yeah, Sock Monkey will tell you that. Yes, Sock Monkey knows all about that. Now, one of the things I've noticed at grocery stores, and this particular one has been going on for years and years and years, imitation crab. What the hell is imitation crab? I mean, you buy this bag, it looks like crab meat, it's imitation crab. So it got me thinking, well, is there such a thing as imitation crabs? And all of us guys know it. Imitation crabs aren't something we don't want. Tends to happen, but never mind. But what other things are imitation? Okay. I read an article one time where there was a producer in China that was arrested for putting out imitation rice made out of plastic. Instead of rice, he was feeding people plastic. Yeah, doesn't sound too good and whatnot. Imitation beans, imitation bread. What else do they put out there? It's imitation. It's not real. Imitation ice cream. It's not really ice cream. It's not made of milk. It's not made of the emulsifier. Well, it's made of emulsifiers and such, and it's horrible stuff. But we eat it nonetheless. But yeah, it was just a little thought that passed through my mind at that time. Another article, or I'm not sure if it was an article or I think it was somebody was telling me this story, which kind of made sense, but kind of, wow, are you really kidding me? You got to be kidding me. I think it was Richard that was telling me this story, or my cousin told me this story. But apparently, in one particular pet shelter, when they spayed or neutered a cat, they would clip the tip of the ears of the cat, so that later on, if somebody else came along to see if that cat needed to be spayed or neutered, they'd see the ears clipped and realize, oh, they've already been spayed or neutered. It's like they couldn't be bothered to take the cat, hold it up, and take a look. I mean, come on, how hard is it to hold a cat up and go, oh, it's been spayed, or oh, it's been neutered? And it got me to thinking, what if they did the same thing? Okay. Oh, God. To the guys who go in and have a vasectomy. Guy goes in, he has a vasectomy. Okay, sit still, Mr. Castillo. Clip, and they clip your ears. Oh, my God. Yeah, these are just some of the things that float through my mind when I have conversations with people, and I'm thinking, are you kidding me? Spay or neuter a cat and then clip its ears? Yeah, let's do the same thing to people. Why not? Sure. Also, I've become aware of, I talk to my neighbor John on a fairly regular basis. He's out in front of his house every morning, usually about 6, 7 o'clock in the morning till about 5 in the afternoon. He's, of course, retired, nothing much to do. And he and his sister, who live in that house, they feed several cats, several stray cats. And it turns out that we've got another stray cat out there, a new stray cat, a kitten. That's maybe about 3 or 4 months old, 5 months old. Little tiny thing, black and white, kind of cute. But it turns out it likes to sleep on the roof of my house. It climbs up a tree near my roof and then jumps onto the roof of my house, and that's where it sleeps at night. Kind of a strange thing, but I feel some comfort in knowing that there's a cat watching out for me at night. Even though I don't sleep at night, I sleep during the day. But anyways, this has been another episode of John Sees the World. Or is it John Sees the World? We'll try to get back to you as soon as we can with another episode and see how you like that one. Shout out to my buddy Richard. Hopefully he's back soon. And he and I can have some fun on the show as well. And until then, just remember, I'm here, you're there, and I'm not.